Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode here of Scribblechat. All right, so yesterday was all right. The check-in. Dun, 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 dun. Yesterday was. It started off as that battle back and forth of, you know what, man, you just take one day off, just one out of the week. And I talked about that yesterday. What that kind of what I know that means. But to be fair, I don't want to turn. If I do the 7 days a week, and this isn't um, any kind of sympathy thing or anything, or people that actually are doing like working with big publishers and stuff. I've heard, and I can understand it. If you're doing freelance work, when you take a day off, it has a cost, right? And that's money. And I know it's 100% different than us that go to a day job and you punch in and all you gotta do is like X amount of hours and you'll get X amount of pay. Or you can also, some jobs they offer the ability to call in sick and you can use a vacation day and you can still get paid. You know what I mean? At work, my boss, he called them, he was telling us about that the other day. Well, we're switching over to, or potentially switching over to, if you needed a day off, like a sick day, you take a vacation day. Uh, or as he likes to call them too, you can also, like, if you need a mental health day, which a lot of people I don't think account for that sort of thing. And I do think there's times when people, you might be one of them, and I know I've done it in the past too, where you call in sick. You're not sick. You just, I don't know if I'd consider it mental health, but I like what that encapsulates. Like you just need a day off. You just you're going in to do work and you're not excited about it, but it's just like you just need that time, right? So, but with freelance, the moment you do that, that's like projects that are getting left off the table. You're competing with everybody else that's doing freelance. It's kind of scary stuff. So, I got a question for you guys before I give you a little like wrap up of what happened and what I'll be doing today. I just got a question for those of you, those lurking and that are active, leaving comments and stuff. If you guys are freelance artists or full time, you work for like a Marvel or another company or something, or independent artwork or whatever. If your primary income is just generated based off your skill, you know, let me know. Let me know some of that stuff. Like, what does it look like for you? What's been the last thing, or the last time you took off? How much of a chase is it? How scary is it? How I was talking to a friend last night actually, a really cool guy, and we just shoot the shit every now and then, and he's a freelancer as well, doing comics, and he was saying you live in paycheck to paycheck and stuff, and that's not a life that I'm used to, and I don't mean to say that as in like a like a nose up in the air kind of way or anything he was saying, but it is definitely one of those big fears that I have moving forward with just trying to get I don't even want to say aggressive, but just more settle into the all art lifestyle. And the cost to not doing that, I think, is complacency. Like at your day job or whatever. Um, there's there's a comfort there that people I'm not sure if you pay attention to or not yourself, but like there's definitely a comfort there of just it's a job that's always there, unless you just can't do the job. But on the other hand, I've also heard things, and I believe this too, right? Like, let's say part-time jobs, they're always there. They're never going anywhere. So the fear of quitting like especially if you have just like a retail job or a part-time job, quitting it to try something. There's always those jobs. They're not. Well, they might in the future, but right now they're not going anywhere. Anyway, I'm rambling here. I'm just like in flow of thought here. Of I'm not trying to talk myself off a bridge here or anything. uh, I would hope I'm wise enough to know, you don't make these massive steps unless you've got something of equal value or potentially equal value on the table to jump to, right? It's like I've definitely been one of those firm believers of you never quit a job unless you have a job lined up, no matter how bad that job is, kind of thing. So that kind of stuff's going in my mind, but to be real, and this goes into another thing, and I'll try to get out of this one, this little topic here, but uh, for better or for worse, when you hear things like for freelance art, you're struggling to keep food on the table. It's paycheck to paycheck, gig to gig. It's just dominoes. It sounds like for a lot of people, you're not going over, and hopefully the next one's you've already lined it up, ready to keep that train going. But day jobs and stuff, they're the same kind of thing, right? Like there's the illusion that there's security there too, even with everything I just said. You can be let go at any moment. The business could go under at any moment, right? Like there's so many variables that we just don't take into account. I don't think. I will say the illusion, maybe not the illusion, but the perception is that you will definitely have that day job around longer than, not longer, but the chances of you not struggling to get food on the table that month is probably a lot higher with a day job than it is freelance. At least that's what it's looking like from the outside looking in here. So anyway, I'm curious if anybody wants to chime in. Just let me know. I don't want to know how much you're making and stuff like that, but I would consider, and this isn't a judgment call, but I would consider for me anyway, living paycheck to paycheck is struggling. Um, because I can't, like, the stress that must add, I can't even fathom. So I'm just interested in hearing how many of you guys go through that, or if you guys are on the other side. I'm not saying you guys are making bucket hand over fist and stuff like that, but you're all right. You're doing okay. Okay, so yesterday anyway, so I was going back and forth with that. And I settled down on, the 1 day a week is fine. Let's just do that. Um, just means working throughout the week is just even more serious, and then it's almost like a little cherry on top at the end of the week. Sunday works really well. I get stuff done around the house and yada yada. I played a little bit of Star Wars, that was good. But then, as it always does, which is good, I guess, after around the 2 or 3 hour mark of playing games, I wouldn't call it fear. Not fear. It's not fear. It's I was gonna say it's shame, but it's not shame. It's just though the brain wires itself going like, not that you shouldn't be enjoying yourself, but well, why don't we just do a little bit of work today? Why don't you just try doing a little something? Make yourself useful in the world. So I got over to the computer, started farting around. Finally was able to just sort of go like, all right, let's open up a Google Doc and let's start writing the script for JESOP King. So I've got the plots all done. I was telling you guys that. The thumbnails are all wrapped up. So then the next stage that I'm doing here is the dialogue. Now this dialogue it's tentatively this is it, meaning I'm trying to write it as if it's semi-final. I want to keep the flow of it going. I don't like staring at a page and going like, what would be the right thing to say here? I just sort of do this is what I think would be good here. And then once it's all done, I do another pass over that. And then once we toss it into the comic itself, as we draw it, I can always adjust it, which is great too. But once it's all finished up that's when I'll jump into, I think I talked about it with you guys yesterday. I'm going to do the batches workflow. Probably, I'll try to break it down. It's 24 pages, so I'll try to divide it. I want it done by the end of January, so I'll have to do some math. I won't bore you guys with that, but I'll figure it out, whatever batch that might be. It might be 3 to 5 pages, meaning, let's say it's 3 pages, then it's the breakdowns, line art, inks, color. For 3 pages, then you repeat. And the reason I like doing that, even with like client work, and I'll get into the Marvel thing that I've been working on too. But the thing that I love about batching is I'm not a guy that likes to sit down and just get a piece done a day. It can be super. I used to do that for a long ass time, and it was on one hand really motivating, and on the other hand very intimidating. Just going like, some days you'll get like a comic page and it's just 2 people talking over coffee, and you're probably not going to, like I would in those cases anyway. It's like there's some comfort pages you can make, and then sometimes you really want to expand yourself as a comic artist, and then sometimes it's just, and I always use this analogy, World War 16 in New York City, right, with aliens and explosions and building, like a lot of work. And I always found that when I would sit down to do those kinds of pages in particular that had to be done that day, they would always end up being the next day, and it would be 2 days for a page, and that just sometimes that can start snowballing into other days and stuff, and that it's I don't know. I like working the batches because I also don't like to spend that much time on things. I like to keep things moving along. So if I'm working in a batch, I know that, okay, you just got to push through the pencils here, or sorry, the line art, and then this one you just got to push through the inks, and then you can relax a little bit with the color, and then you can rinse, repeat. It keeps my brain going a little fresher, as opposed to always sitting down in that process, right? Because what happens too, at least for me, and I've talked to a few other artists or comic book artists in particular about this, and for the most part, I think most people like to start and finish something, and I do understand why, but one of the things I heard, which was pretty interesting, is like so and so gets up at this time and they start working, and then at around lunch, we'll say 12 o'clock. Around 12 o'clock, their breakdowns or type pencils, whatever you want to call them, they'll be done. And they use that sort of as like a benchmark. So when they know the next day, if they're at like 1 or 2, they're going to be putting in a little extra hours that day because they're over budget in some ways, and that is a pretty interesting way of working as well. So anyway, I was doing all that, but then the big thing that happened, and then this is where the fun kicked in, because for me the writing is not, it's not, and I apologize to you writers, it is artistic, but it's not really artistic for me. It's more of a means to an end. So I'm doing that, and I'm just like, that's where the resistance for me comes in, because I just want to draw stuff, right? So I started thinking, you know what? Once we release Jessup King and stuff in the new issue format, and for those, some people were asking me about that. Jessup King was releasing like an old school webcomic would. I think it was every Monday and Friday. Uh, I don't really like that personally. The reason I did that before, or for issue one anyway, was because it made me do it. It held me accountable that eventually my buffer would run out, and I didn't want to wait a week or two until another update. It was like fire under my ass. But as somebody who consumes content, I don't like reading webcomics like that. I'll come back a month, 2 months, maybe I might even forget, and I hope that doesn't happen, but it's possible, right? And there's reasons for that. You want context, and I'm a big believer of this too, right? If you find something you like, you want more of it right now, right? So I always have to think of the next person that comes to read my comic. They might like it, and if they do, they want more. Now, with the way I was doing it before, with the traditional sense, is they can only go backwards, right? But they can only go backwards in so much, and then it's a roadblock eventually, and the context of the story is immediately gone, and it's not fun. The only time it's fun is when you have multiple issues in the backlog or something that people can come through, right? So I think this is going to be the best way of doing it, and we'll see. I mean, I realize I'm putting a lot of time and effort into it, with no like, besides Patreon, there's no like actual okay, here's the finished book, pay if you want, you can buy it. I'm going to look into doing some of that stuff, only because a lot of you have been asking, and I don't mean like asking as in like, hey, can we buy it? I mean asking about just the curiosity of that the nature of making money off of like a finished kind of digital book or whatever. And Jessup King issue 1, I tried to document as much of the process as I could. So I think you guys, you might dig it too, see some of the pitfalls and stuff I'm running into, and we'll go for there. But anyway, one of the really cool things was the cover. Since we're doing this new issue thing, I get to do covers again, which is actually really exciting, because covers also double as like promotional art to like post around and stuff, like if I go, hey guys, issue 2's out, and it's just like a comic page, it's whatever, but if you have like a really cool image, that's pretty snazzy. I took a quick snapshot and put it on all my social media accounts, so if you guys want to check that out, go ahead. Patreon member or subscribers, you guys will get this stuff first, before I release it to YouTube. What I've been doing too is recording it. So we're going to do some old school style Scribbles with Jonathan stuff, which is recording the process, speeding it up, and doing some narration over it. Pretty excited about that. Should go pretty good. It took me about an hour to get the thumbnails and then the breakdowns for the cover. Really exciting about for that too, just because the amount of time. Like, I've noticed Jessup King just goes so fast for me. This morning, actually, before I started recording here, got the coffee, sat down, and I'm starting to do the breakdowns for the Marvel stuff here, the Spider-Gwen. And it's weird because, like, with Jessup, it's a pure organic experience. I can, I can make calls. I can go, I don't want to draw this. I do want to challenge myself, draw this and that. But with like the script stuff that's given from somebody else, I can start to see or remember why For better or for worse. I'm not saying I don't ever want to work with writers again and like that, but when you're working from a script, right? Like it's I don't know. There's a little. I'm finding minute details that even I missed the first 2 or 3 times before that I don't think I could have ever found out until I got to this stage. And I don't know if that's inexperience. It could be. Or it could be some other things. But you know, it's what I'm talking about. I'm trying to allude to some stuff. Is just panel choices. Like, oh, I shouldn't have used this shot here because they kind of talk about it coming up and that kind of thing. So anyway, JESOP King covers on the breakdown stage. Recording that. There's actually a whole bunch of posts queued on Patreon. For those interested in the behind the scenes kind of stuff, you guys can check that out. And if you're already on Patreon, cool. You guys will see that soon. Other than that, like I say, we're starting to breakdowns. This week's looking pretty good. I'm pretty excited, pretty pumped. So this morning, before I go to work, I'm just gonna keep working on breakdowns for the spidergwen sample. Tomorrow, I think I'm gonna try to get. Like I said, I want to do the batches, right? So I'm not leaving this project here until the breakdowns are done, and then once the breakdowns are done, I'm thinking that's when we can get the liner. And I'm sort of like batching in the issue 2 cover as well into this. So we'll get into the line art of the cover sometime this week. Ideally, if I push myself, and I don't know how hard, like this sample script, if anybody out there has already drawn it, you might know this. It's actually very easy. Like there's some city stuff and some background stuff, but a lot of it's like action and very close shots. Like you go into like a person's apartment building and you could put some detail in there, but there's so much action that I think you got to be careful with how much detail you put in there. And then they're like swinging literally on top of the city, but like not that you can't draw, you don't have to actually draw, you can draw like the idea of a background and stuff, and there's a water texture I'll have to figure out at 1.2 coming up, but it's pretty simple as opposed to like the Doctor Doom one where it's like there's it's chaos. It's controlled chaos and stuff. But anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. Coffee's getting a bit cold, and we got some work to do before we go to work. So anyway, I just want to say hi. Thanks guys for listening to all that cool stuff. And I wish you all the best on whatever you're working on today. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.